A lot of people have opinions of what I should do and how I should react. Yet, I'm in a far more extreme situation than they are. They want to get butthurt, as they call it, over me saying how it is. They want to get angry at things that I do that don't hurt them. It just offends them. I live in a world where people are offended by my words so much that they physically harm me. Being separated from my loved ones, that's literally how all this started. The Boulder Police not allowing me to heal up, not allowing me to sleep after I injured my back. People who get to see their loved ones, they don't register this kind of emotion. You see how angry Rick got, how irrational he got. I'm not irrational. I'm emotional, but not irrational. I'm aware of my situation. For me, I should have had somebody who was familiar with autism from the start. Well before I ever met Natalie. But I was in the system. In the system, they don't really give a fuck. They diagnose you with 10 different things, give you 10 different meds that give you 10 different issues, and those issues they give you more diagnosis for. The pills fuck you up, and then they diagnose you with a mental illness for the shit in your head that these medications fuck up. There's supposed to be help for people like me. The help that I got was assaulted and charged with assault repeatedly, drugged repeatedly, prevented from seeing my loved ones. Meanwhile, that doesn't register to any of these people. Shannon still gets to see her loved ones. Rick still gets to see his loved ones. Dan Faber still gets to see his loved ones. So does Alicia. So does Pierre. So does Teresa. So does Brandy. So does Brandon. So does Veronica. So does Osha. Osha never turned her back on me. I've come to her rescue a couple of times. But I didn't come to her rescue because she's a girl. I came to her rescue because she asked. Same thing with Bailey Beers. But these people get to see familiar faces every day. I have to try to make do with what I have. When I met Shannon Alvarado at her place, I'd never met her before. I only knew her from the internet. Mandy Hughes, I only knew her from the internet. Alyssa Rainwater, only knew her from the internet. But I met Alyssa. Sure, not in person, but when I was in jail, she came to see me. I got to talk to her on a computer screen. Mandy Hughes came to see me in person. It was good to meet Shannon. She's a wonderful person. the drinking part that kills me. She's not willing to admit she has a problem. Then again, all the issues that I had with her revolve around things that are common with people who are drinkers. Maybe you're a closet alcoholic. Maybe you're just one of those people who likes to party every once in a while. It doesn't matter. When you're drunk, you're drunk. The way that you act and the way that you think when you're drunk, they're not the way that you believe or perceive at that point in time. Now, for an alcoholic, it's different. For somebody who's a casual drinker who gets drunk, well, they know that they're not thinking that straight. When they're sober, they think about it. They're like, I did some fucked up shit at that party last night. But for an alcoholic, they don't register that they're different. They don't register how different. Is that entirely true? No. Matter of fact, it's not true at all. It registers to them entirely. 100% when they're sober, same as anybody else. But they're not willing to admit that they have a problem, which creates even more problems. So then you're dealing with an addictive personality and a chemical addiction. You can't get addicted to something without an addictive personality. Me, I got addicted to alcohol because I have an addictive personality. What is an addictive personality? Well, it's selfishness is what it is. Am I a selfish person, though? No, I'm not. I recognized that I had a problem, and I did something about it. I quit. I decided that my loved ones were more important than my booze. I decided that helping others was more important than getting fucked up. I recognized that I couldn't help others if I was fucked up because I couldn't even help myself. The things that I've gone through, my dad's got an addictive personality, but not just an addictive personality. He's got a controlling personality. Shannon does not have that. When she's drunk, it's kind of a toss-up. Teresa, she doesn't really have a controlling personality towards me. But in the last probably 5 years, she hasn't been sober for a single conversation that we've had. I love these people. I do. Despite their addictions, despite their issues, despite their problems. But at the same time, I needed somebody who could actually help. There's supposed to be professionals who do this. But those professionals don't. They can't. It's excuse after excuse. Go here, go there. You jump through all these hoops and you get nowhere. And it all costs time. It all costs money. It'd be nice to know that people are addicted to stuff before you go there. With Shannon, I was pretty sure that I was right. I was actually wrong, I'm glad I was wrong. I'm glad she's not a meth head. But alcohol really isn't any better. It's just more legal. It's more socially acceptable. Nebraskans, they consume a lot of alcohol. Does that mean every Nebraskan drinks? Nope. No, it doesn't. But alcoholics tend to blame everything on everybody else. They tend to create problems where there isn't one. They don't want to recognize that their addictions affect their families and the people around them. With Shannon, I don't agree with her drugging her child. At the same time, her daughter is not a child anymore. She's a legal adult, but she's a legal adult who can't speak. So for Shannon, she gets super frustrated. Out of everyone in the house, her daughter went after me the least. I had very little reaction to it. It's because I can take the physical pain. A lot of times, Shannon's daughter would just come stand next to me and stare at me, or come stand off to the side and stare at me. And I wouldn't notice until Shannon would yell, "Hey!" And I'd jump. And that reaction, that's what got her daughter to hit me. And I recognized this pretty quick. I asked Shannon to stop snapping every time her daughter come walking up next to me, because the times that I can't call it babysitting because I don't sit on babies. Plus, her daughter's not a baby. But the few times that I watched her daughter didn't get violent at all. Not even close to it. Matter of fact, as long as she had some tunes on, she was good to go. Now, the person that she got the most violent with was Rick. There's a reason for that. Rick is aggressive about it, grabbing her by the throat. Ugh! You know? And for her daughter responds to that in a very physical way. She starts screaming and she starts crying. She didn't do that with me. She didn't do that with Shannon. Now, there was a couple of times where her daughter got too physical with me and I redirected her. But I redirected her in a mean way. Instead of what I normally did was to redirect her kindly and nicely. Soft hands. There was 2 times where I was thinking too much on literally trying to get Shannon to listen to what it is that I was trying to say. But I was watching her daughter at the time. Shannon was at the store. And I put a little bit of a nudge into it. Like when somebody goes to grab you and you redirect them out of the way, you want to do it with a flow. Because if you do it with a flow, it doesn't have that aggression to it. But instead of doing it, redirecting her with a flow, I put a little bit of a nudge at the end, basically to put her off balance. She had to take an extra step. And that right there, the 2 times that I did that, I noticed that her daughter came after me immediately after doing that. So, being aggressive, even in the slightest bit, is something that her daughter is going to respond to aggressively. Now me, even as I was doing it, I was recognizing that this probably wasn't going to work. Also, I was hoping that it wasn't going to work. I was hoping that I was right about her daughter. And I was right. Now, that's a far cry from grabbing the young woman by the throat and gurring in her face and yelling at her like Rick does. Or screaming in pain like Shannon does. But it's the reaction. It's an aggressive reaction. And although it wasn't meant to harm her, and it really didn't, it's the fact that it was her response to me that was creating the issue. And even though her daughter didn't get aggressive with me while Shannon wasn't there, when Shannon would leave, sometimes her daughter would have a reaction that was aggressive. So, I guess in a way, I can say that her daughter was aggressive when Shannon left, but only because Shannon left. And it wasn't every time either. Like the 2 times that I did that, I guess one of those times Shannon had only gone upstairs. She hadn't actually left the house, and she was very emotional about her aunt at the time. And the other time, Shannon was, she was pissed off about her daughter breaking a TV. Her daughter broke 3 televisions while I was there. And one of those times, Shannon just needed to take a break from it. And when she left, her daughter was still screaming, was still crying, because she wanted to hear the music. Shannon was pissed off because her daughter broke the TV. The TV is what's playing the music. It's the advertisements in between the songs that her daughter did not like. So she broke the TV when the advertisements came on. How many of you have felt like breaking a TV every time the fucking commercials come on? Be honest. Well, for her daughter, it's a matter of poor impulse control. But it's also a matter of poor impulse control for a reason, because she can't tell you what's wrong. You have to guess. And when you always have the same guess, it's kind of like when a baby cries. Maybe the baby's hungry. Maybe the baby's thirsty. Maybe the baby's constipated. But in either event, the baby is crying. So you try getting the baby a bottle. You try getting the baby some baby food. Maybe the baby's just tired. You don't know. So you go through the list to try to find out. It's better to go through the list than it is just to assume every time your baby cries that it's because they're hungry. If your baby spits the bottle out 50 times and you're still trying to shove a bottle in their face, you are misreading the signs that that child is showing you. That baby is crying because that baby needs attention. What does that child need attention for, though? With me, people don't understand me. They misread the signs. A lot of people that I don't get to see, they don't understand that the reason that I'm frustrated is that I don't get to see them. Any of them. It's not like I don't get to see 1 or 2 people. No, as soon as that shit in Virginia happened, I couldn't see any of my loved ones. Not without having to fear being threatened or assaulted. Before Natalie died, well, up until November, the November before Natalie died, that's when I stopped keeping secrets. I still tried to keep people's secrets as best I could. But prior to that, I didn't let people's secrets out. I might tell one person for safekeeping. By safekeeping, I mean if anything happens to somebody, I need somebody to verify it. A lot of times, that's where text messaging comes in handy. If I text message about something abusive that somebody wants me to keep quiet, at least I have a record of what happened and when. That way, if that information is needed, I can go back to it. If that person who is abused needs to know that information, I can go back to it. With Shannon's daughter, she's very easy to manage. Easy to manage. She doesn't like people getting on the floor. And she doesn't like people sitting down. Do I understand why? No, I don't. That's one of the things that if I'd have paid more attention, I could have figured it out. But also, it's a lot easier to pay attention when you're sober. When you're not willing to admit that you have a problem and you have somebody who's autistic in your house and they're reacting to you, it's easy for you to say it's their fault. But they're having a sensory overload issue with the way that you're acting or reacting, depending on how you look at it. When her daughter came after me, it was nearly always while Shannon was there. It was nearly always while there was a shouting match going on or she was just being shouted at. A lot of times she'd come up and hit me, but different hits mean different things. If she comes up and slaps me on the chest, it means that they have a food box, and the food box is locked. That's so that Shannon's daughter can't get into it. But when she comes up and slaps me on the chest, it means that she wants some food. She used to, when I first got there, Shannon was letting me know that if I sat down, because Shannon stands up all the time. She's afraid of sitting down. She let me know that if I sat down, her daughter was going to come yank on my beard or pull on my hair, or she was going to try to bite me. But we worked on soft hands while we were there. And when I sat down, and her daughter noticed that I was sitting down, she would come over and she would grab me by the hand and help me up. Which is actually helpful because it's difficult for me to stand up. So her daughter was very kind. That's something you might not think to describe somebody who's biting and hitting and scratching and all sorts of stuff like that. But her daughter understood that I was in pain. I explained it to her, and she understands English. And when I let her know that it hurts me to get up, that I needed help up, instead of grabbing me by the beard and yanking me up, because I don't have any hair on top to grab a hold of, she would grab me by the hand and she would help me up. For me, I'm able to speak. And even being able to speak, I can't get people to understand. So, you see my frustration, my screaming, my yelling, my anger. It's frustration. Natalie didn't understand that her telling that one little white lie in Virginia would get people to do so many evil and cruel things. Right now I'm talking pretty calm, but I have to stop a lot so I don't stutter. And just like when I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, I'm thinking about killing myself because I can't see my loved ones, and it doesn't matter because they don't understand. They don't love how I love them. I get angry and I scream now, a lot. And I'm a bad person for that, apparently. But then again, when people scream at me, it's magically justified, right? Meanwhile, I'm more rational than all of these people. I have to be. Most of you don't think with the rational part of your brain. You think with the emotional part of your brain. And then you want to get angry when other people think with their emotional side of their brain. I'm stuck using both. When I get overwhelmed, I remember so many details. So many things that are important, but I find often that they're only important to me.